What's up guys, welcome back to another C++ Unreal Engine tutorial. In this one we're going to be covering save games, and this is like a really important element of building a game. Obviously you're gonna have to know how to save and load games. So let's get into it. We're going to start by making a C++ first person project. And I'm going to call this save tutorial. So save games in Unreal Engine are really easy. The Unreal Engine comes with a class called savegame, and that'll allow us to save and load games, right? And it's really cool. It like serializes everything, and if you don't know what serialization is, basically it is kind of like encrypting the data so that people can't just change it. So, you know, back in the day, really badly made games would be saved in plain text, right? So how it would work, right, is like the player's save file would just be like a plain text file, and you could literally open it up and like see your character's name, see how much XP you had, see how much gold your character had or whatever. And so anyone who wanted to could open up that save file and then just like give themselves as much money as they wanted and stuff like that, and just completely cheat in your game. While Unreal Engine serializes the information, which basically means that a save file cannot be edited. You can't just open it up and change everything. So that's really good for us as the developers, right? It adds like a layer of sort of security to the game, I guess you could say. But without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is go edit project settings and add some input. And I'm going to add two action mappings. So I'll add one called save, and we'll map that to the S key. And then we'll add one called load, which will map to the L key, surprise. Alright, so that's all set up and we can use that in the game. I know what you're thinking, right? WSAD is the keys we use to move around, so surely we can't use S to save our game. But that is not true. You can actually use multiple keys for different things, and that works. You probably shouldn't do it, but in this case, it's not really a big deal. Okay, so in my save file, I'm just going to save the player's current position, and then I'll set it back to where they were. So you can save your position, and then you can load it back in, and it'll load back your character's position or whatever. So the first thing we need to do is add an instance, or add a save game class to our project. So we'll just go new C++ class, show all, and then save game, and then go next. And I'll just call it my save game because that works. And you guys are going to see how crazy simple it is. We're going to be using the uGameplay statics library to get a little bit more out of these save classes. We don't have to write our own annoying save functions or whatever. It's going to be really nice. Also, when you make your save game class, you might find that you get some weird errors. This is just to do with the Unreal Engine. I don't know, it's weird. These come up sometimes. Basically, when you open up your save game file, once this loads, you might see that these have errors on them. But you'll see it in a second anyway. So we'll add a constructor to our class. So to add a constructor, we just say uMySaveGame, and then we'll just add a uProperty edit anywhere vector player location, and in our constructor, which we haven't made yet, so uSaveGame, uMySaveGame, uMySaveGame, we'll say player location equals if vector, and we'll just set that equal to like a zeroed out vector, which just is a vector with the coordinates of 0 stored inside it for all the axes, or axes. Right, there we go. If you still get errors, because sometimes you might get errors on like save game and stuff. Save the project, build it, close Visual Studio and reopen it, and that will usually fix any errors that you might get. The next thing we're going to do is just go into the source here and open up the project file, so savetutorial.h in this case, and we're going to change this to engine instead of engine minimal, and that's just going to allow us to add some in-game debugging in a more simple way. So now that we've got that, we can actually get on with the tutorial and make some stuff start working. So let's then open up the character.h and character.cpp files, and in our .h file I'm just going to add a little private section down the bottom here. And remember, it's private because we're only using these functions from inside the class, right? So void savegame and void loadgame are going to be the two functions that we use to save and load our game respectively. And we put void on there because these functions don't return any values. Now we just have to bind these two functions to our input mappings. So we say bind action, save, IE pressed, this, and then our function, so a save tutorial character save game. And then we can just copy this over for loading games as well, so let's just copy and paste that in, and we'll just change this to load game, and we'll change this to load. Okay, now we'll implement the two functions, save game and load game. And we'll put the class prefix on there. And just to ensure that we know these functions are being called, I'm just going to put a game engine debug message on there. So gengine add on screen debug message. -1 5 if color green text game saved. And then we'll just copy this over and use this for game loaded as well. So game loaded. Cool, so that's pretty much it. Now we just have to include the save game class in our character. So to do that, we'll just come down here and say include my savegame.h. And now we can actually start getting to saving. So the first thing we need to do is create an instance of our savegame class. So to do that, we're going to say my savegame savegame instance equals gameplay statics, and then create save game object, and that requires the static class method from our save game. So all we do is say my save game, my save game static class, and that's a function that is defined not by us but just by default. So we get an error here, and the reason we get this error is because gameplay statics create save game object returns save game, but as you can see we're trying to initialize my save game, which is our specific save game. So what we actually need to do is cast it into our save game. So we just say cast my save game, and then just wrap that in parentheses. And there you go, create an instance of our save game class. So we've done that now. Set the save game instance location equal to the player's current location. So basically just save the player's current location. So save game instance player location equals this, get actor location. So that's just saying we're in the controller class right now, so we can say this to reference the current player character. We don't have to get a reference to the character, we can just say this because we are inside the player character, right? And then just get the location of the player. And finally, we need to save the game. So save the save game instance. And to do that, we say uGameplay statics save game to slot. We'll give it the save game instance, and then the next parameter is the slot name, and I'm just going to call it my slot, and then the save index, which we'll give it 0. Log a message to show we have saved the game. So there we go, that's all we have to do to save our game. Very simple stuff. Now we'll do loading the game. So loading the game is relatively similar. The first thing we need to do is get an instance of our save game class. Next thing we're going to do is save game instance equals uGameplay statics load game from slot, and then the slot name and index, and that was my slot and 0. But again, load game from slot does not return a uMySaveGame. It returns something else. It returns like a generic save game class. So we need to actually cast it into a uMySaveGame again. Load the saved game into our save game instance variable. Next up, set the player's position from the saved game file. So this set actor location, and set it to the save game instance player location. And then finally add just put log a message to show we have loaded the game. That's it. That's all we do. Very, very simple. Let's just compile and I'll make sure I did everything correctly. Didn't screw anything up. I hope I didn't, but you never know. Might have got something wrong, so let's go ahead and compile. Again, this could take 7 eternities, but I'm gonna hope it's kind of short. Otherwise, I'll have to edit that out. There we go. About time. Hit play. And we're going to start by just running over here. So we'll save our game standing right in the corner here, right? So let's press S. Game saved. Now we'll just run like way over here, and if I press L to load the game, it loads us back to where we saved our game. Now you're gonna be like, well, why aren't you facing the same way? And that's because we only saved the player's location in the save file, but we could save the rotation as well. You can save whatever you like in there. In a real game, you would save like the player's gold, the amount of XP they have, whatever items they had on them, things like that. In this case though, all we're saving is the player's location, but you can save as many different things as you want. There's no limit to the amount of stuff you can save. But anyways guys, hopefully you found some use out of this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one.